Hey guys, Magnus Robber here, bringing you another tier list video. Now, this was one that was suggested a while ago, and I neglected it, and then I thought, actually, I'll do it, because someone did suggest it. Now, I think I'm going to just establish a new rule, because a lot of my videos are getting, like, a lot of comments. It's very hard to keep track of suggestions. I do remember one person suggested ranking the actors, and I do think that's probably a good idea. I would like to do that. I just need to kind of figure out exactly how I'm going to base it off, right? But I might do that, but I want to do a shorter one today because that one's probably going to be like a 2-hour slog to do that. So I'm up for that. But any other ideas, let me know in the comments. Again, even if you're repeating the same idea, just do it anyway. A, it's good for the engagement of the channel and it helps me out. But B, it also just reminds me because I'll forget otherwise and it will be lost in the comment section of another video. So yeah, just if I haven't done your idea yet, let me know in the comments down below what it was. So today we're going to be ranking The Walking Dead Kids. I made this tier, so I'll link it in the description. I think I've got every child from the main show. If I forgot someone, then so be it. Now there's a big range here. We've got all the way from babies to like literal teenagers, some of which may actually be older than their respective age. Like Zach, for example. Zach might be like 7. He could be anywhere from like 17 to like 20. So he's a tricky one. But like Noah is 17. Who else? Henry's like 16, I guess. I think. I know Enid, like, eventually is, like, in her 20s, but we meet her as a child. The same with Beth. We meet Beth at 17, so I decided to keep them there if we kind of met them as children first. But if, like, they would have been children when the outbreak began, but they're not children now, that doesn't count. So, like, Kelly would have been a child when the outbreak began, but obviously now she's like, in her 20s. I'm not counting that, for example. So, yeah. So, let's get into it. So this is the tier. We've got Badass Kid. This is for the kids that are, they're good characters, and they're also pretty badass. We got Great Character. That's for the kids that are, maybe not quite S tier, but they're good enough. They're good characters enough. Decent enough / could have done more. So this is for like characters that I think had like a lot of potential. That they're like either like they're just decent enough and that's fine, like, or like characters who I think had like some potential for more, but like they didn't. Annoying but good, annoying and pointless. Maybe I'll just put pointless, annoying / pointless. So if they're basically pointless or they're annoying, and then just bad bruh, that's down below, right? So let's go with everyone. The one that everyone's going to be on is Carl. Now, where did I put Carl? So if we're ranking kids overall, I think Carl's S tier for me. People seem to have this perception that I hate Carl as a character. I don't. I don't know where this comes from. Maybe it's because I ragged on it a little bit. The reason why I rank Carl a bit low on my character tier lists is not any hate on Carl as a character. I like him as a conceptually. I love the character. My problem is the way that he's done so dirty in season 8. It's not only the fact that they kill him off. That's not my like only issue. My other issue is the fact that they 180 his character. He suddenly is preaching peace and love when like literally a few days ago he was helping to murder saviors, and he was helping on a plan to blow the saviors up, and he had no objection there. I mean, he fired the first shot of the war, for Christ's sake. Like, Carl fired the first shot of the Savior War, the Savior Coalition War, right? He did that. He fired the first fucking shot. Yet, like, two days later, he's talking peace and love. That was my biggest issue with Carl as a character. And that's what I think really tanked the character for me. Because ultimately, like, if you don't stick the ending of a film, the film is kind of tainted. And that's how I feel about Carl's character. Because they didn't stick the ending with his character, the character is kind of tainted for me. But everything else about the character I love. I love the character, how I like the character even like season 2, right, where he's been a little shit. I mean, I even like it then. Season 3, I think it's a great season for Carl. Season 4, when he kind of begins to step back and have these really touching moments with him and his dad. I love that, and I think Chandler does an amazing job in season 4. Season 5. Carl's fine. Nothing major, but he's just kind of he's around. Season 6, I really like him with the whole Wolf stuff and the Enid stuff and the Ron stuff. I think that's really cool. And then kind of him becoming like obviously losing his eye and becoming like a little savior wannabe killer. Wanting to kill the saviors, traveling. I like all that. That's cool. And then season 7, he's pretty badass too. He was starting to really like come into his own as a character. I do think that like season 7's probably one of Carl's weakest. I think Chandler Riggs' weakest performance is in season 7. I think he's all round not great in that season. Like the "stay back, I just want Negan" and like the "sing me a song" thing, where it works in the comics. But because I think Chandler Riggs looks older, him singing "My Little Sunshine," it almost feels, it just doesn't feel right. It really, that scene always kind of like, it was not the wrong. They should have come up with a different song that he sings if they really wanted to do the whole "sing me a song" thing, or just like don't do that. That was one of the weirder storylines of the comic for me. It's like the fucking Lydia licking Carl's eye socket out that happens in the comics. They didn't put that in the show. They had Lydia and Henry eat worms instead. Like, let's do something like that instead of the weird shit that Kirkman puts in his comics. Yeah. But like I said, all around, I know I've been a bit negative there at the start. I love Carl as a character, and if we're ranking them based on kids and not characters overall, I'd say he's pretty, he's one of the most badass kids around, so I'll give him the S tier for me. Let's go for someone that I dislike. Oh, this is tricky. I feel like they do most of the kids pretty well. Let's go for Noah. So for me, I think Noah is like decent enough. Obviously, they could have done more with him. I think I'm almost tempted to put him on pointless because I really just don't know what Noah's point was. What was the purpose of Noah's character? What profound arc did he have? Not really anything. He was just a face to add to the cast and then to kill off when we get to Alexandria. So, yeah, I think he was decent enough for what he was. There was nothing particularly that special about him, but there was nothing I really disliked. I was waiting for them to do something with him, really, and they just never did it. And instead, they killed him off for, I guess, a shock value death, which is really disappointing. So, yeah, he's both decent enough and also could have done more with. So, yeah, I'll leave him there. I think that's probably fair. Let's go for... I don't know, Noah from Woodbury. I mean, he's just pointless, really. I mean, there's not really much point to Noah. It was kind of to show, like, the governor's cool with child soldiers, but then they do nothing to, like, follow up on his character. And obviously he has, like, that bond with Karen that we see, and then Karen just never mentions Noah again. And I think it is confirmed that he dies during the governor's massacre on his militia, so yikes. Yeah, so... I'll just put them there. Some of the more minor kids are probably going to go there. I don't know. Maybe I should add like a tier below that's just minor character. Yeah, just minor character. I think that because I feel like it's probably a bit mean to say, oh, you're a pointless. It would have been cool to see more, but I think ultimately he's just a minor character, so I'll put him there. Adam Sutton. Just a minor character. There's not really much I can say. Like Celeste, I can't really say much about Celeste. Coco. So here's my thing on Coco. I think Coco is kind of pointless. Like ultimately, what does Coco like? Adam actually isn't relevant for the plot, right? Because Adam obviously is like Gamma wants to see wants to see her nephew. Obviously, like Adam being left to die is like a really brutal moment of the Whisperers when the baby's left to be eaten, right? Because it's crying. The mother can't stop it from crying, so it's like, oh, you got to leave it then. You got to leave it to be eaten. It's like fuck. All right, that's brutal. So I feel like Adam has like a purpose to the plot. He's just a minor. He's not really a character. He's just a prop. Whereas Coco, what the fuck is the point of Coco? When does Coco become relevant to the plot? Until the last episode when they need a reason. Like Coco only becomes relevant right at the end. I mean, even the whole like relationship thing between Gabriel, Rosita, and Sadiq. There's just no conflict there, which I do kind of like in the sense that they just solve things like adults, but there is no conflict there at the same time, right? So. I don't know. Coco as a character really kind of was a bit pointless. She's not annoying. It's just a bit pointless. The only thing that really comes to mind is the saving her in the finale, right? Which it's fine, but it does feel like suddenly Rosita. I used to say actually, but now I changed my mind. I used to say suddenly Rosita cares about her baby, I guess, but no, I don't. I think when I did my Rosita profile, I think I changed my opinion on that. I think they highlight it pretty clear that Rosita does care for her child. I mean, like it's throughout like season 10, and yeah. So I changed my mind on that opinion, but yeah, Coco. Bit pointless. I think it was like the episode before though. She barely mentions Coco, so before she suddenly seemed it's like to the warden, like, "Where's my Coco?" Yeah. Anyway, we'll put her there. Enid. So I like Enid. I think she's a great character overall. I do think I wish they stuck the landing a little bit better with her. Like I like her edgy sort of almost like emo kid, like goth kid kind of vibe that she has about her, where she's going out on the walls, and it makes sense why like her and Carl, attract to each other. And then like Enid kind of going forward, I actually really like her in season 9. With the Doctor arc, and we're aging her up, and I think putting her with Alden still weirds me out. I feel like it's just because Alden was always a man to me, and Enid was a child, and then suddenly they're together, which I guess really the age gap isn't that bad when you think about it, because she's like 23 and he's like 26 or whatever, 27 or whatever it is, so it's not so bad. But like in that sort of vacuum, but it still weirds me out, and so I don't really like that relationship. It weirds me out personally, but I think Enid was getting there, but then like getting interesting. We're doing something new with her. She's actually taking like a really responsible, like, especially from where we found her, right, where she was basically detached from the community, and now she's the Doctor. She's one of the most important people in the community. I think that's like a cool way to take the character. And then they kill her off, which I think it was kind of like shock value, and I think I'm okay with Enid's death overall. It's not that offensive to me, her being on the pikes. I think I'm okay with it. It would have been better if someone who actually cared about Enid, that was a bigger character than Alden, obviously, was there. So if like Carl was there, I feel like that could have been like really good. Or even if they just showed like Aaron being really upset over it, right? Because I mean, Enid saved Aaron's life by like amputating his arm and all that. So I feel like it could have been cool if there was a bit more of an impact to Enid's death. That's why I personally think they should have kept Carl around, and they should have killed Enid. I actually feel like that would have been a really good way to do it, because that way you can still do the Henry Lydia storyline, because I do like the Henry Lydia storyline, and I think it's done really well. You have the time skip. Obviously, Chandler Riggs can cut his hair finally, grow some stubble, pretend to be older now. We can make Carl look older. Obviously, Enid doesn't really change her look, but whatever. I think she might like cut her hair or something. But yeah, we have Carl and Enid. They're together. They're a couple. Enid gets beheaded, and then you still have the Henry Lydia stuff too. But I wouldn't kill Henry off either. But that's my little rewrite. But anyway, yeah, I like Enid as a character. Sorry, I went on a bit of a tangent. It happens, all right? We're all here for the journey. Dwayne. Yeah, I mean, ultimately, Dwayne is kind of like, I think he's just a minor character. There's not really much more. I wouldn't feel comfortable saying he was just decent enough, because I think, but I guess he is decent enough. Like, I don't think they could have done more with him. Really, I think it's fine. It would have been cool if like we had one more episode in season 3 with Dwayne. Like, even if it was just like a flashback. Like a flashback with Morgan and Dwayne, that could have been cool, but ultimately there was not really much more they could have done. And I do appreciate what they did in Fear the Walking Dead as well. I won't spoil it exactly, but anyone who's seen season 8 will know what I'm talking about. I really appreciate that. That was really cool. So I think ultimately, I'm just gonna put in like decent enough, right? So this is slash. This doesn't mean they're the same, but I think Dwayne's just decent enough. Addie. I think ultimately both Addie and Rodney, I think Gage does serve a larger purpose, but Addie and Rodney to me kind of felt pointless. Like, they were literally put in the show to like prop up, to like keep, show them every so often in an episode in season 9, ultimately with the goal of killing them off in the pikes. I think that was the ultimate, and that I just don't like characters like that. Characters that are the only reason they're really set up is to be killed. Because ultimately, what other things do they bring to the table other than like being just arsehole kids? And they're not even like, I don't like that conflict either. Like, that was never in the was that ever in, I don't think that was ever in the comics, right? Where like Lydia and Carl like were questioning if they loved each other, like, or like Lydia was questioning if Carl really loved her and all that. I don't think that was ever in the comics, so I don't think it was needed. I think it was pretty pointless. And ultimately their characters were just there to die. I do think Gage has a bit of a greater purpose. So I'd say he's annoying, because he is annoying, but he's good. Like his little ninja thing he does with Laura, that's annoying. Okay, and Gage beating up Lydia, that's annoying. But I think he's a good character overall. But he does annoy me. Speaking of annoying but good, we've got Sam. So Sam is annoying, but I think he's a great character in the sense that, he is just this scared kid. You can understand why he is the way he is. I mean, all around, I think he's a good character, but he is annoying to watch. That's true. He does annoying things that make you grit your teeth, but also make sense with him being a child. So I can't really knock him there and his logic. I can't really knock him for his actions, but yeah, I mean, overall, he's a good character. I mean, like, ultimately, it's Carol who did that to him, right? Carol traumatized him, and then he started panicking, and that's what brought the hurt on him and his family, so, yikers. I don't even know why I put these guys on the list. So, like, Jonah is a minor character who no one cares about. Actually, wait, no. I think, nah, do you know what? Alice, in retrospect, annoys me. The reason why she annoys me is because they bring this daughter so they say, Frankie's got an adoptive daughter called Alice, right? And actually Marcus does as well, and I'll tell you why. Frankie, so Frankie has an adopted daughter now called Alice. Frankie's obviously one of Niga's wives. And it's like, she has a daughter called Alice, cool. And then basically what they do is it's so they can have a scene, because no one else gives a fuck about Frankie, I guess. So they can have a scene where Eugene goes to Nabila, and he's with Alice, and like, have you seen Frankie? We can't find Frankie. Frankie's missing. And it's like, oh, see, someone cares about Frankie. Because it wouldn't make sense if Eugene was asking on his own, so they had to have Alice next to him. And obviously in the previous scene, they established that Alice and Frankie were like mother and adopted daughter. And I think as well that I think she's in the Scars flashback as well, is she? Maybe, I believe so. Yeah, and that was literally I swear to God, that was the only reason, and that annoys me because then she never comes back because she served her purpose. So they never really continue. Same with Marcus, because Marcus is meant to be Scott's adopted son, yet we only see him in the flashback, where it's like, you know, like, I guess Scott didn't give a fuck about his son after that, even though we see Scott like go on like scouting missions and stuff with Michonne in season 10. So he goes to the Oceanside with Michonne in season 10. So I don't know. To me, just a bit weird. They've like threw him in there like pointlessly. They gave Scott a kid only to like rip him away. They've got Joshua. Joshua's fine because he's there for those few scenes. I guess he just disappears. And same with Jenny. They're not like pointless to me because they are just filling out the background really. Same with like Owen and Aaron. Like, there's nothing that annoys me about these characters. They are just background characters really. And same with Luke and Molly. I think the same way of those guys too. Where's Molly? There, Luke and Molly. Cool. So we've got Aaliyah. Okay, so I think I'm going to put these guys in as well. Aaliyah, Mariam, and not Elijah. What's his name? Ezra, Aaliyah, and Mariam. Jerry's children, Jerry and Nabila's kids. What I don't really like, aside from just showing that, okay, like some people have, you know, been happy and had children, and, you know, seeing Jerry like that. I mean, so in that sense, they're fine. But again, they do nothing with these like 3 kids. Like, not, you know, we don't have one of them die. Like, you don't just have to kill them off. By the way, I'm not saying that's the only solution, but none of them die. There's no like big plot relevance. I guess there's like Nabila can't find her kids after the Whisper War and she's panicking, but that's about it. Yeah, I don't know. It's a minor thing. Maybe I'm being too mean because ultimately they're not that offensive. Yeah, I'll just put them in just minor. I wish they did more with them, to be honest. At least Ezra. I'd say do a little bit more with Ezra. But the other two, you don't have to do much more with. Andre Anthony, which of course is Michonne's kid. Yeah, I mean, I'm just going to say minor character. But, you know, ultimately I think is a good character. It's decent enough, right? I like that as a backstory. Obviously, we only see him briefly. But for everything he brings to Michonne's character is pretty good. So, but in his own right, he's not really much of a character. Then we have, God, what are they called? Like Ginny, PJ, and Linus. We'll do all them. I don't remember their names. Which one's which? These guys were annoying, but I guess they were good. And I feel like I like all of them in the sense of, I know they all play like minor roles. And then we have Mitchell. Is it Mitchell or Michael? I forget now. That guy, anyway, the leader of the kids, the Jocelyn's second in command. So yeah, PJ, Linus, and is it Gina, one of them? And then obviously Winnie as well. These guys were annoying, but they were all really good. I really liked making like the kids the villains, and forcing Michonne to murder some children was really funny. So not really funny, really tragic. Oh god, I'm terrible. I'm like a bit sleep deprived, so I'm not my I'm not really thinking about what I'm saying. Yeah, they were all. I really like that as a plot. I really like the Scars episode, although I don't think it's like an amazing episode. I definitely think they could have improved on it, but the concept alone I think is really cool, and I think all these kids did a really good job as well. So yeah, they're annoying because they're murderous little shits, but they're good. They're good characters. So yeah. We've not got many in the top here, have we? We've got a lot of minors and a lot of annoyings and some decent enoughs. So let's do a great character, which some people are probably going to disagree with, and that's Henry. Now, I think Henry, is he a bit annoying? He's very annoying in season, Season 8 and 7. Well, 7 he's fine. He's just chilling in the background, really. But in season 8, he is very annoying. Like him going off and like releasing the prisoners and getting, almost dying and Carol having to save him. He's annoying then. He's really cool in season 9 though, like when he's still young Henry. I think he's pretty good there. Beating up Justin and all that. And then later on we have obviously aged up Henry. And I like aged up Henry a lot. I'm still waiting to do my rewatch of season 9 and maybe my opinion will change. But as of now, I really appreciated Henry's character. I really appreciate that they adapted the Carl storyline instead, because there was not really much. There was no character that really could take it after they killed Carl, unless they did with Enid, right? And they just did they said Enid's bye, and she's with Lydia. But there was not really any character they could have done it with. So aging up Henry and using Henry for that storyline, I think was really smart. My only issue is kind of similar to Carl. I don't like how Henry ends. Because, and people say, I've seen people recently saying that Henry's death is a shocking death, and it's a good death, and his character's well-rounded. But his character's not well-rounded. His character doesn't end. It felt, and I don't like this, right? We set up a character that's important to Carol, this Carol's child, and we just repeat the same fucking beat we've already done with Carol. How many children does Carol have to lose before it gets old, right? We did it with Sophia, it was tragic. We did it with Lizzie and Mika, it was tragic, but in a different way. And then we do it with Henry, but it's tragic, but in the same way that Sophia was tragic, really. But now she has someone to blame, and that's Alpha. And I don't like the whole I don't like what it does for Carol's character. Carol's character just becomes stagnant and annoying in season 10 as a result of this Henry stuff, and I think killing Henry was the reason why that happened. And you could still do a little bit of the Carol angry revenge stuff. Just kill Ezekiel. Stop pretending to. I hate the fact that they sometimes swap out comic book deaths just for the shock value, and it really annoyed me that they did that. They did that a lot. They added Abraham being killed instead of just Glenn, and I felt like that was the shock value. I think the Denise change worked, changing it to Denise instead of Abraham. I think that worked. I'm trying to think of other examples now where they changed. Maybe it's just the Pikes, but the Pikes in particular, it felt like they purposely didn't, instead of just making the Ezekiel death fit, which I think they really could, they instead decided just to surprise comic book fans, which I guess whatever. So I don't like how they killed Henry, but I really like Henry as a character. I think he really did the storyline, the Carl storyline well from the comics, and I wish they continued it, because they basically start that storyline and then they drop it. That's my other issue with it. They start the storyline and then they don't continue it. That's what annoys me the most, is you're adapting one of the best storylines in the comics, and then you just drop it. And I don't understand why loads of people defend Henry's death. To me, it's almost as bad as Carl, if not worse than Carl, because they basically kill Carl twice. They find a good enough substitute to Carl's character, right? And now Rick's gone. It kind of works because Carol's there, and then they fucking kill him off again. They literally kill Carl twice, and not more people are mad about it, and it annoys me. You should be mad about it. Lydia. I think Lydia was decent enough, but they could have done more with it. I think the same way that Carol's character is hurt by Henry's death, I think Lydia's character is just no point to her. After Henry dies, I don't give a fuck, right? It kind of doesn't work without that through line, without that sort of romantic bond, without that kind of character, those two kind of leaning on each other, and the fact that Carl basically started this war over a girl, over a girl he liked and a girl that he fell in love with, and obviously in this case it would be Henry. They just kind of drop it, and who does Lydia get to console with? I guess Negan. Why? Because Negan killed her mom, and Negan's kind of a bad guy too, and they're both kind of outcasts. I think I like that. I wish they worked on it a bit better, but I like that aspect overall. And then who else? Like Daryl. What does Daryl give a fuck? Oh, because Daryl cares about like young girls, right? He likes Beth, right? He cared about Beth, right? I guess, kind of. Carol doesn't give a fuck about Lydia. And then they pair Lydia with Maggie. Why? Why is Lydia now paired with Maggie? What connection does Maggie have? This is what I really liked about like the Hilltop. How like the Hilltop in season 11, it ended up with Maggie, who fucked off from the community. This was the whole of the Hilltop. It was Maggie who fucking left the community. With Maggie, we had Marco, the only Hilltop resident. Lydia, who was a resident of Alexandria. She joined Alexandria, not the Hilltop. And Elijah, who was obviously from Meridian. That was what like the last Hilltop looked like. Half of them weren't even from fucking Hilltop. Yeah. Why they paired Lydia with Maggie, it just felt weird. It felt kind of like, oh, we don't know what else to do. And then ultimately they put her in this kind of forced, out of nowhere relationship with Elijah, which I just don't care about. And then they're like, oh, we need to do one more thing with Lydia. Let's have her lose a hand in the finale or in the penultimate episode. And it's like, okay, whatever, who cares? Yeah, so they just didn't know what to do with Lydia. And I think the reason why is because they killed Henry. I think you instantly repair Lydia's character if you keep Henry around. So, yep, that's my personal opinion on Lydia. Lizzie. So, I'm going to say badass kid, but obviously I think she's mentally ill and she should be treated. But I don't think she's actually badass. Suffocating a baby is not badass, and murdering your sister is not badass. But in the sense that I think she's an S tier character, I think the way that they set her up and the way that ultimately it leads to obviously Carol having to force her put her down, I think that's written brilliantly. It's written so well. Like the telltale signs are there early on in the prison, and of course we slowly, gradually see her kind of becoming more and more like being, because ultimately she suffers from psychosis. She's of course mentally ill, and she's hearing things in her head. She's hearing the walkers speak to her. She thinks that they're alive, that they're just they're just different. And then of course that ultimately leads to her. So, like, she's so convinced that she's right that she kills her sister to be able to prove it to Carol and Tyrese. And she was going to kill Judith too. I mean, she even says, like, I was about to move on to the baby. And so Carol, there's no way to treat her for this illness, and they have to look after the bit, they have to basically choose between Judith or Lizzie, because they can't have both, because one puts the other at risk. So they put Lizzie down. Carol puts Lizzie down. It's a fucking brutal scene, and it's way superior to the Ben and Billy thing in the comics. The Ben and Billy thing in the comics pretty much comes out of nowhere, and it's almost like shock value, and no one gives a fuck like about Ben and Billy. The way they built up Lizzie and Mika is way different. Where would I put Mika? I'd probably just put Mika in like good, like great character. Like she's great, but like nothing like. Not as good as Lizzie, but like they complement each other. You can't really have one without the other. So I have to put it there. But I do like Mika's arc is that she is just too innocent. She is like another Sophia. She's just weak, right? Sophia, honestly, is just a minor character. There's not really much more I could say. Like Lizzie is a more major character than Sophia, and like all these other kids are. Maybe with the exception of Dwayne, I guess. But she's in the plot for the whole Sophia goes missing, and then we find her in the barn. But like before that, there was nothing. And then we got Louise Morales and Eliza Morales. They're just minor characters. Who cares? What's this kid called? Was he called Vincent? No, he's called Milo. This was annoying / pointless. The little kid that Negan bonds with, talking about nut slapping or whatever the fuck he was on about. And then, of course, Brandon comes along and murders this kid. Yeah, it just felt kind of like I hate that scene so much. I actually despise that scene. For like so many reasons. The way they adapted the Brandon Negan like storyline was dreadful in my opinion. A few reasons why. First of all, if you read it in the comics, Brandon is the one who lets Negan go, and because he's mad at Rick and he wants to like join the Whisperers or whatever it may be. I think exactly the reason. And of course, Negan as soon as he reaches the border, he kills Brandon because he's done with him. Now Brandon's shown him where the border is, and told him all about the Whisperers and what's been happening, and given him a bit more gossip. Negan has absolutely no use for Brandon, and at this point, Brandon would become a liability to Negan, so he murders him. Right? He murders a kid. Negan murders a kid. So how do they adapt that to the TV show? Well, it was Carol who released him because we want to have that cool reveal, which is the most stupid reveal ever, but whatever. And so, what is up with season 10 and twists, man? They like these like pointless twists for no reason. So they instead have Negan be released by Carol off screen. So and then Brandon just happens to see him and chases him up because he's actually secretly a Negan stan. Okay, they never highlight this before, but whatever, out of nowhere, he gives him a fake Lucille, a fake leather jacket, and then Negan's like, "I wouldn't kill a kid. I'd never kill a kid. I'd never kill kids." Right, and then Brandon murders a kid because he's like, "Oh, I thought it was a test. I thought you were." It's so stupid, so dumb. I hate it so much. And then it's like, Negan's actually not a bad guy. Everyone, watch the audience because he avenges Milo, this little kid that he was talking about slapping his nuts to with. I mean, what the fuck he was on about? Yeah. So I hate that scene. Milo, pointless character, annoying as well. More so, what Negan was doing was annoying. That scene makes me uncomfortable. More uncomfortable than any of the gore. Because it's Negan chatting to a kid he's just met about slapping nuts. So, yeah. Weird. We've got little Rosie, which is obviously Eugene's daughter. I guess she's just minor. RJ. Okay. What is the point of RJ? Like, ultimately, what is the point? Is it just so Rick can have another son? Because we decided to kill off Carl. So we're like, oh, fuck. His legacy can't be brought on by a girl. Ugh. It has to be a boy. So it's like, oh, we'll just have Michonne be pregnant. It's okay. She had a child off screen. That's what it ultimately feels like. RJ does nothing else for the plot other than be like a son that Rick never met, and that's it. So he is pointless. The actor's not very good, and it shows. And people like to rip the fuck out of the poor kid, and I feel sad. I feel bad for him. It's kind of like they cast him like when he was very, very young, and so they were kind of stuck with this kid actor. Maybe they can recast him if they do a time skip, if they do something in the future. But yeah, it just felt like they wanted to give Rick a son. I kind of don't like it. I don't really care. I think Judith is enough, right? Just because it's not his blood and it's not, and because it's a girl, doesn't mean like the whole point of The Walking Dead, right, is your found family. Like these people are my family. What Rick says. It is like the fucking Vin Diesel meme, right? With family. It kind of is though. It's about like found families, right? So what is better like than the epitome to carry on Rick's legacy than like a child who's not even his, but he's just like he's devoted to raising, or he was devoted to raising until he disappeared. So I feel like Judith was a much better legacy character than fucking manufacturing RJ for no reason, just because you killed Carl off. And I guess Angela Kang was like, I didn't like that decision, so I'm gonna bake up a child. Jimmy, he is 17, so he is a kid. I mean, he is just a minor character. There's not really much more I can say about him. Megan, I'm going to say she's annoying. She does annoy me a little bit, but she's a good character. I like how she brings out the humanity of the governor, kind of brings him back a little bit, so he kind of becomes a bit more humane, and we almost get the villain origin story for the governor in reverse. I was thinking about this today, actually. Like, I like what is the best defense of the governor episodes, because I really like the governor episodes, especially the first one. I think the second one probably could have been combined with some of the stuff that happens at the start of Too Far Gone. I think they probably could have, like, short in that episode, but the first one I really like a lot because it really is like the governor. It's almost like a villain origin story, but in reverse, right? And that's what I was thinking about. It's because it's like we get to see the good part of the governor before we'd never seen this good side of the governor before, right? We've only ever really seen the bad and the fake, where he's like charismatic Jim Jones type in like season 3. Or we've seen like the diabolically evil. So kind of seeing his origin story in reverse, and like seeing how he cares for Megan and Lily and like the Chalmers family, and how he is willing to do anything. When Megan is almost killed, he like fucking goes absolutely crazy on those zombies, like ripping their throats out and all sorts and killing them with bones. And yeah, it's brutal. Like that's a great scene, like how much he cares for this girl now that he's like kind of bonded with her, and how she sort of brought him back from the brink of nothingness. So yeah, I really like Megan as a character. I think she's a great sort of catalyst, I guess, or plot device. As a character in herself, I mean, she's a bit annoying, but she is a kid, so it's fair. Herschel Jr., I'm waiting to see What they do with him, I'm going to say he's decent enough. I'm waiting to see what more they do with him, really. Not really much more I can say, because honestly, he doesn't do much at all. He's sort of a brooding teen in Dead City Season 1, and then in the Walking Dead main show, I mean, he's only really in Season 10 and 11. Before that, he's just a baba. And again, he doesn't really do much of that interesting. Judith is badass kid, okay? Judith I like. I think after they killed Carl and they did the time skip, it was a great choice to continue with Judith being that sort of legacy character. Part of me feels like they could have done a bigger time skip, to be honest, and cast an older actress, but, you know, whatever. I suppose there was only so much they could do. Maybe 6 years was probably fair. It's 6 years, isn't it? Yeah, I like Judith, obviously before that, but it's kind of cool to, like, rewatch the show and see her as a baby and then as a toddler and, like, knowing, like, eventually she grows up to be, like, this pretty badass kid in her own right. I think that's all cool. And I think in terms of, like, she doesn't actually become a character until Season 9, let's be honest. But everything they do with her in Season 9 is really great with, like, the trauma and, like, of the scars thing. And, of course, about her remembering. And, obviously, that's all great. And then we have, like, the stuff in Season 10 as well with the war. And the Whisper War, and she, like, kills a kid and having to kill Earl and, you know, being sad about everyone dying and all that. And then in Season 11 as well. And, you know, her getting shot. They could have done more with her, definitely. Maybe I think they could have done more. Like, they could have done more with Carl. But I think ultimately, I think she's up there. She's S tier for me. So I'll leave her there. Benjamin, unironically, great character. Great for Morgan. He was, you know, more minor, and he was very much chill. And in terms of, like, his arc, he doesn't really have much of one, really. It's more just him learning Morgan's way of life. And I think he does have a few moments where he gets a bit violent with, obviously, Jared, and, you know, he strikes before thinking and that. So there's, like, a few, like, moments, and it's very much like a student-teacher relationship between him and Morgan. And, of course, there's a bond there that Bill, even though Morgan, you know, is reluctant to do so at first, but Ezekiel obviously pressures him to teach Benjamin the art, and of course ultimately that leads to I say it leads to Benjamin's death, but Benjamin dies, and that leads to Morgan going cuckoo crazy mode again. So yeah, he's a great character overall. Jody, now he's, like, minor, but I'll say Carl shooting him, I don't know if he might be, like, early 20s, but it's not clear. Carl shooting him and all that I really like as a concept, but wouldn't it have been cooler? I think I forgot. Wouldn't it have been cooler if Noah was the kid that Carl shot instead of Jody? So, like, an established child soldier. That's my only, like, gripe. I feel like if they established that, so we naturally did know this kid was, like, a 14-year-old, like, pretty much the same age as Carl, or close to age in Carl, and Carl guns him down. That's my only thoughts on that. Anyway, Ben, this guy is bad. Just bad, bro. I don't like Alan and Ben. I think their plotline in Season 3 is the most pointless thing, and it's the most annoying thing about Season 3 for me. And I like Season 3. I'm a big defender of Season 3. Although it's got its issues, I think it's probably my second... I think so far, yeah, I'd probably say it's my second favourite season. Season 3 it has some issues, for sure. There's some writing issues, and obviously it kills off Andrea. But I think overall, it's a great season, and I'd love to do a video to defend it. There is some, like, bad writing in Season 3, and, like, if you know about the stuff behind the scenes, it looks really awful, because, like, a lot of these, like, decisions were made, like, nights before. They'd be like, oh, fuck it, kill off Axel. Oh, fuck it, we'll kill off Merle. Oh, fuck it, we'll kill off Andrea. But I think all the story, like, some of the deaths are questionable, but I think the story is done really well. The only deaths I found, like, very questionable anyway. I don't really care about Andrea's death. Like, I didn't care at the time. I don't really care now. I think it's fine. It's not great. It's not bad. It's fine. Anyway, yeah, Ben, the Ben Allen stuff I didn't really like, though. And they kill off Ben, and they're like, oh, well, Alan. It's like, oh, they killed my boy. Like, I guess we're just leaving Ben and Alan and Tyrese and Sasha, never mention them again. Very pointless. Ron. I like Ron. I think he's a great character overall. I like the little conflict with him and Carl, the bickering, and him trying to kill Carl, and of course trying to kill Rick, and then ultimately Ron kind of shoots Carl in the eye after being killed by Michonne, and you have, like, the little love triangle with him, Enid, and him, Carl, and Enid. Part of me wishes, though, they kept Ron around. I think there was more potential. I do. I'm gonna say yeah. Yeah, fuck it. I'm gonna say he's here, But I think they could have done more with him. Because I just think having that dynamic could have been like really cool, and Carl having like somewhat like, because then Ron kind of takes the role that Mikey does in the comics, but in a very different and more interesting way, in the way that he's underneath Carl's wing, and then eventually Rick's wing. When Rick kind of begins to bond with Mikey in the comics, we kind of do a similar thing with Rick and Ron bonding. Yeah, but in a very different way, because obviously Ron has all that history and baggage with the fact that Rick killed his dad, and his mom and brother died too, and he's now an orphan. So part of me wishes they kind of kept him around. I think there was something you could have done there, but I guess killing him off as well works. I don't know. It just annoys me how they basically kill off every notable Alexandrian other than Aaron and Tobin in like that one episode, basically. Like they kill off, yeah. I mean, even Tobin at that point. I guess maybe Tobin counts, but like, no, like apart from like the background guys who like have a name, but that's about it. Like Bruce and Barbara. Like I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about like actual proper characters like Deanna, Jesse, Ron, Sam. Like these guys are actual characters. They have they've interacted with our characters. They have wants, desires, flaws, fears, all that. So we have these 4 characters, and we kill off all 4 of them in one episode. And so the only notable Alexandrian we really have left at that point is Aaron and like maybe Tobin. So yeah, I just feel like keeping one of them around could have been cool. You've also got to think they previously killed off. Oh, and Spencer as well. But then Spencer dies in season 7. So, yeah. Beth is, I'm gonna say badass. Yeah, I like Beth overall. I think I'm happy enough with her character from start to finish. My only issue, and I've said it before, with Beth's character is her death. I think her death is really stupid. I think killing her off around like that sort of season 5 mid-season finale is probably the right time. The way that they kill her, it's so dumb. It's out of character. Why would Beth risk her friends' lives to try and get a cheap shot at Dawn? It makes no sense to me. I still, to this day, that scene baffles the fuck out of me. I don't understand it. I like how people like to take the shit, like pull the shit out of like Andrea's death and like rip the shit out of season 3, but everyone like simps so hard for fucking season 5, when season 5 has arguably something 10 times dumber than Andrea's death, and that's like, it's in line with the governor, right? The governor's never gonna let someone go if he wants her dead. He's done with Andrea. He shagged her. She's not loyal to him anymore. He doesn't need her. So, like, why would the governor, like, put her in an easy scenario to escape? At least that's in character for the governor, and it's in character with Andrea, right? Beth, it's just what Beth does that leads to her death is not in character. So, yeah. But anyway, overall, I like Beth. I like her arc. I like her relationship with Daryl as well. I really like how she opens Daryl up. Like, she basically, we see the soft side to Daryl because of Beth. I really wish they showed that a bit more later on, but whatever. But yeah, I think Beth was great. People like to say she's whiny. I don't think she was whiny. I think she made sense. The whole Still episode, I think it's really underrated. I think it used to be ragged on a lot, but I actually think it's a pretty decent episode. Yeah, so I like Beth overall. She's cool. Anyway. Vincent, this guy was annoying and pointless. Actually, no, he was just bad. He's a kid who comes out of nowhere in season 11. We've never seen this child before. I guess he was living at the community the whole time. Maybe he's a hilltopper. Who knows? He comes out of nowhere. He bullies Judith in this cringy bully scene. And then Judith puts a sword. I just didn't care for it at all. Like, I don't care. This is not what I want us to be doing with Judith. Judith is like beyond getting bullied by a child. Like, this, like, double her age, or wherever he was. So I didn't give a fuck. He comes out of nowhere. It was bad writing. Boring. Awful. And then he just disappears. We never see him again, so who cares? Zach. Now, Zach might be a teenager. He might be an adult. Who knows? But ultimately, Zach is a great character. And you might be thinking, wait. He's like a 1-episode character. Shouldn't he be down here? No, because he's not just like a background who doesn't do anything for the plot. Zach's death kind of is like a domino effect, because it kind of it ripples throughout the whole like prison. They have had 30 days without an accident, they haven't had a death in a while, and of course Zach dies. It was Bob's fault, so he's like riddled with that guilt. B, of course, it's Beth's boyfriend, and Beth kind of has this new kind of way of dealing with trauma where she just doesn't get sad, doesn't get emotional. But also, Zach's name, he's not a guy who dies and then is just forgotten about. Zach's talked about throughout the whole of like the first half of the season, even into the second half when we're obviously Daryl and Beth episode. So Zach like becomes like a major, like his death is actually felt, and this is what something I think is like really good about season 4 is even like the minor deaths are like really big. Like Karen and David are really big moments, even though they're like minor characters. Zach's death is a big moment. Even like Dr. Caleb, right? The doctor, Dr. S, right? Even when he dies, it's like, oh shit, that guy was cool. They're really good at minor characters in season 4. Even like the villains, like Joe and the Claimers, like they're great. So I think Zach's really good. He's a good kid, if he even is a kid. Same goes to Patrick actually, because like Patrick, we see him as like Carl's friend, but he's also kind of a little bit immature and he's ultimately like an innocent, and then of course he goes down with his flu, he dies, but then we get to see him again in the finale, in the flashbacks, when he's like again with Carl, playing with Carl, and Rick kind of telling Carl to leave his gun behind, you don't need that, just get in the way. And yeah, so I think Patrick's a great character too. Same thing. Mikey, I'm gonna say part of me thinks decent enough. They could have done more of him because obviously Mikey is a bigger thing in the comics, but I ultimately don't care either. So I guess just like minor character. I just don't. I think it would have been better if they did that kind of Mikey storyline with Ron. And I don't think that Mikey storyline is particularly that interesting in the comics anyway. I'm thinking of it a way. The whole Ron idea I was having was like a way to make it more interesting. So I think ultimately I just don't give a fuck about Mikey really. He kind of disappears, and it's kind of like sort of confirmed. I guess he kind of dies in the Negan grenade attacks or something, or the Wolves attack. He probably goes around at one of those attacks because we never see him again, like, apart from those 2 episodes he's in. But yeah, who gives a fuck? And then we have AJ and Becca, who of course Abraham's kids. I guess these guys are annoying but good. I think that's probably fair because it's annoying that they run off and they're scared of their dad, but obviously ultimately that is what leads to Abraham's character, and it's a tragic, great backstory. Obviously they run off with their mother, so it's annoying they run off, but I think it's a good character moment, so I'll give it the thumbs up there. Rachel Ward. Fuck Rachel Ward. Bad character. I think all the Oceanside characters are pointless. They have no purpose to them. Rachel is particularly annoying when she's a child. When they age her up, she just kind of shows up, and it's like, why the fuck is the child in charge? Like, just because the child's like in her 20s now does not justify her being in charge. I don't even know if she's in her 20s. I think she's like a teenager. But yeah, like Rachel is in charge for no reason. She was annoying when she's a child, and it makes no sense why she's in charge. It's like, well, we can't have Cindy. The actress is busy, so we'll have to, we aged up Rachel. Here she is. We'll have her show up. Like, I just don't give a fuck. Bad character. All the Oceanside characters are ultimately pointless. We're never needed. Oceanside is the most pointless community, so fuck it. Gracie. Gracie is, I guess, decent enough, but they could have done more with her. I mean, it would have been interesting if they did a bit more with Gracie as a character, but I guess for what she is, she's fine. Giving Aaron a daughter and that sort of motivation is cool. Kind of, it's a friend for. This is the true Mikey, I guess. It's a friend for Judith. So yeah, I'm happy enough with her, but they could have done more with her. Is this May or May? I think this is Judith's friend in the Commonwealth. I'm just gonna say she's. Could have done more of her. Yeah, I mean, we could have done more of her, but she's pretty minor, so I just put her there. And I got to wrap this up quickly. Penny, of course, is the governor's daughter, zombie daughter. I feel like it would have been cool if we had a flashback, personally, like a little bit of more of a backstory, because obviously in the books it's a bit different. In the books and comics, where the governor takes on, like, he pretends to be his brother to the point where he convinces himself that he is his brother, and and Penny is his daughter when it's actually his niece. So I would have liked if they kind of did a bit more with that, like the background. But I mean, overall she's decent enough for what she is. Summer is a fucking cool ass zombie to start it off with. Brutal, Rick killing little girl zombie. So I put her there. All right, nah, I guess she's a minor character, but she's a great like visually striking like opening for the series. So you got to give it some credit. And then Miguel from the Vatos. This guy is actually 14, 15, even though he doesn't look it. Yeah, I guess he's just. I'm going to say decent enough. They could have done more with it. Because ultimately they could have done more with the Vatos. Even if it was just like an actual reveal. Now I know there was the whole deleted scene. But it's just annoying that we never actually get like a proper scene seeing the Vatos. What happened to them. It's just that one deleted scene. But I guess it's also been confirmed. So whatever. There's no real mystery there. But yeah, Miguel was like. Him and Gilmero were like the two sort of big characters from the Vatos. You know, we hung around with Miguel for like a whole episode pretty much, where Daryl was like slapping him and throwing a severed hand at him and shit. So it could have been cool if we saw Miguel again, and I think the actor like really wanted to come back too. But yeah. Anyway, that's it. That's my list. I hope you enjoyed ranking kids. Went on for longer than I thought it was going to, but yeah. Anyway, thanks for watching. Let me know those ideas down below. Make sure to comment them all, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.